Welcome back to another episode of Marketing by the Minute. This show is all about what marketing is and the impact it can have on our lives.
Being in college, there are a lot of unknowns. Finding your path is hard. We're trying to figure it out just like you. We want to share real experience of Western Washington University graduates who are outstanding in their field. And that's why we created Marketing by the Minute, to inspire us to find our own way and make our mark.
Marketing by the Minute is a very special project put on by the Applied Integrated Marketing Communications team here in the Western Marketing Program. We're your hosts. I'm Clay Ashworth.
I'm Claudia Webster. We want to welcome today's Marketing by the Minute guest, Elisabeth Jackson. How are you?
I'm good. How are you two?
We're great.
You're doing great.
We're so excited to
Happy
have
be
you.
here.
I'm excited to be here.
Elisabeth is a 2014 Western Washington University marketing graduate who has built a successful career as a system strategist and coach. She's the founder of the Afro Coach, a coaching and consulting company that helps overworked, service-based entrepreneurs build sustainable, scalable, and profitable businesses. Elisabeth, thank you so much for joining us today.
No, thank you. This is really fun. I'm excited to get into it. It's nice to be back in Viking territory.
Oh, yeah. Awesome. We're happy to have you.
Where are you calling in from today?
I'm calling in from Melbourne, Australia. So on the other side, quite literally, of the world.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
Different day.
Different day. Yeah, it is Friday morning for me over here.
Very cool.
Yeah, so let's dive into what you do. You are a system strategist, a consultant, marketer, mentor. Our first question for us and for our listeners is, what is a system strategist?
Ooh, great question. So a system strategist essentially is somebody who helps create the overall holistic game plan for how your systems are going to work together. So I typically work with service providers or service-based businesses. And as you can imagine, there are so many different processes, so many policies, documentation, overall client experiences that they want to have running all at once, usually in their business. And a lot of the times when you're first starting a business, and I can attest to this since I started my own business, it's really overwhelming. It's a lot to be able to manage, okay, what system's supposed to go off when? A lot of the times these things aren't automated. So you're like, okay, did I send that testimonial request off? Oh, shoot. Did I send that to the team so they could get this to this client in time? Did I respond to that client? I don't quite remember. There's so much going on. So as a system strategist, what I do is I help be able to bring all these systems together. I organize them so we know what's going on in your business and when. I make sure that everything's prioritized. So typically for the founder, they're doing a lot, and I'm making sure that they don't get overwhelmed and burnt out before they actually reach the potential of their business. And I'm also making sure that the systems are optimized. So is this process the best way to get to this result? Are we able to have high client retention or be able to convert clients at our best with these types of systems? So I'm the one who's kind of making all the plans and implementing these systems so that the business can run properly.
So that's amazing. So you would say systems strategizing is kind of like organizing someone's life, like organizing someone's business, kind of cleaning it up, making it smoother, more efficient.
Great way to say it. I always say I'm the Maria Kondo of people's businesses. So I just come in and it's usually really messy. And I'm like, that's great. I love mess. Let's go. Let's do it. But that's what I do.
Would you consider your overall title a system strategist, or do you combine like system strategist, marketer, consultant? Is there like a one word that you call yourself?
I'd probably say overall, I'd be an operations consultant. So systems is definitely a big part of what I do. I apologize. My cat is wanting to say hi.
Oh, that's great.
Yay!
But an operational consultant is probably the best way to say it, because while I do deal with systems, I am also dealing with team management, because a part of a system working really well is making sure your team knows how to execute it well and how to be able to fully own those systems and the tasks that are delegated to them, how to delegate to a team, being able to make sure that the way that your business is set up, including your offers and your pricing and the overall like ascension model of your different products, making sure all of that works together to get to the overall vision that a founder has for their business. So that's probably the best way to describe me. So yeah, I do a lot of system strategy, but also I'm making sure that the overall business is working towards the good of the founder and what they want out of it, as opposed to just making sure the systems are operating well.
Yeah, that's amazing. Could you tell us a little about some of the systems that you offer? Like, what you provide to some of these businesses, to these customers that help them create this level of efficiency.
Yeah, 100%. So typically my offers and then the systems that I work on are usually around the client experience. So I do a lot of making sure that we understand the client journey and the buyer's journey, making sure that the systems that are set up. So for example, lead generation systems. Usually a founder is doing all the lead generation by themselves. They're sending out the cold emails. They are on social media, and that's a lot. So I'm making sure that the messaging that they have, we have that nailed down, and then making sure we can amplify that message beyond just the manual efforts of that client. So that'd be lead generation, lead validation, so making sure these leads are actually qualified, so that making sure they're moving from a marketing qualified lead to a sales qualified lead, sales qualified lead to a marketing qualified lead, making sure that we're onboarding effectively, so making sure that the client has everything that they need in terms of expectations from the service provider, when we can contact them, next steps to be able to get started, moving them all the way through working with a client, with one of my clients, all the way to offboarding, so that we can either upsell them to another offer or something that's a recurring revenue model, or being able to at least get a really solid testimonial and possibly even make them an affiliate, so that we can have either another person that we can reach out to have as another client, or be able to utilize them to be able to bring more clients onto our plate. So that's typically where I stand when it comes to systems when people first work with me. But I also work on, like I mentioned before, systems for internal use. So making sure that we're onboarding team members really well, because if you can't onboard a team member really well, how are they supposed to be great in your operation? Making sure that we understand the infrastructure of the business. Like, okay, what are the roles that each person has? Because a lot of times if you've interviewed or seen anybody who's in a startup, everybody's everything. Like everybody has the same responsibility as the other person. So I come in to help with a little bit of structure of like, okay, well, this person owns these tasks, this person owns those tasks, and we can create some type of level of hierarchy so it doesn't feel like everybody's everywhere all at once, so that the team can really be able to cohesively work together as opposed to stepping on each other's toes just trying to get things done. So making it a little bit more organized and streamlined. Those are usually the two ball pits that I play in when it comes to systems.
What kind of businesses are you working with? Do you mostly work with startups?
No, actually, and that's a good question. I have worked with people ranging from startups. That's actually where I started, is in the startup realm, which helped me trial by fire understand, okay, this is what people need in order to run a business. But I also work with bigger, that is not good grammar, bigger businesses that are making like 7-8 figures annually. And these are people who have like 10, 15 people on their team. They have a much bigger operation than just the one offer or the one marketing stream. So I typically, when I'm working with them, it's more on the team side and just making sure that how they're running things is more effective, as opposed to, okay, you have no systems in place, let's get something in place. But it's usually a range, startups to more bigger, complex organizations.
And when you bring these clients on, they obviously have to put a lot of trust and belief in you. What's the first thing that you present with to, build that trust and belief?
When it comes to finding clients and then them also taking that step to invest in me, really, I put so much investment into my messaging. And I think I mentioned this before, because I recognize that because it is a pretty hefty investment that they're taking with me, the biggest thing that I have to put up front is that I understand what their main result is that they're looking for, that I can help not only organize their business, because a lot of the times the people I work with are like, oh, I can just get a virtual assistant. I'm like, the virtual assistant will hate you if you don't have this organized already. Please let me help you so that they can then thank you and work with you longer. But also showing just how a lot of businesses, when they're growing and they're growing exponentially, especially in this online space, their business is optimized for growth, but not necessarily sustainability. So you can grow quick and burn out just as quick, or we can build a really solid foundation to where as you grow, your business is supporting you and accommodating that growth so that you're around for a longer amount of time. And that's usually when my clients are like, yep, we would like to be around for a little bit longer than a couple of months. We'd like to, I'm trying to think of the best way to say this. my clients aren't people who are looking just for a quick 10K month. They're not a client who's just wants to make their first 6 figures and then they're good. These are people who have a mission beyond the financial component of owning a business. They have a lifestyle that they're wanting to be able to fund and be able to actually live in. And so they want to be able to navigate a business that allows for that. So I usually lead with, let's build something sustainable, not just for the growth of the company, but also for your lifestyle as well. And that's typically where my clients are like, okay, we're in.
It seems like just some amazing work that you do. And what do you think you find the most meaningful when you look at all of it?
The most meaningful when it comes to my work or working with clients?
It could be both.
Yeah. I think what I'm probably going to say is probably going to intersect with both. I think my favorite part is because I get to work with a lot of very creative people. Like, oh my gosh, some of the things that these people come up with that just comes from their heads. I'm like, that is absolutely incredible. And I really love that I get to be a part of making that something that's manageable for them. Because when I work with visionaries, people who just have just big visions, big ideas, what usually is the problem is that it's really hard for them to execute because they don't know how to dial that down into actual actionable steps. And that's where I come in. I always say I'm like the left brain to somebody's right brain or vice versa, where they tell me what their big idea is and I tell them how to get it done and how to be able to do it in a way that's not going to burn them out. So I really like when I'm working with a client. I just had a meeting earlier actually, where we're working on completely changing this very big YouTuber's like entire brand and being able to support her, being able to support her in this big shift. Like she never would have made that shift if we hadn't been working on the infrastructure of her business and her realizing this is really what I want to do. And I'm really nervous to do it. But because we have this infrastructure, the team, the systems, the policies, we now have this in place, I now feel comfortable enough to actually pursue this. And that's what I really like, is that I give my clients a space to feel really safe in their creativity and to pursue that because they know their business is going to support them and back them up in that.
Every right brain needs a left brain. That's really amazing that you're able to provide that kind of service for people to organize and kind of strategize their creativity. So that's just a really valuable resource. How does it feel when you help your clients, like this YouTuber that you say you just worked with, reach their full potential?
Ooh, that's a good question and a big question. Oh man, I would say there's multiple aspects of that. Fullest potential. Ooh. I think really it is. It's back to just making sure we have the right pieces of support in their business. So if I know they have a big idea and like a big idea for a new offer or a new direction of marketing, maybe they want to go onto a new channel, a new field, like not social media, like moving from Twitter to Instagram. I'm talking about, oh, I want to try ads or I want to try direct mail, something completely outside of our wheelhouse or something big like that. I want to make sure that they know that their business is stable so that they can focus their priority on that. So everybody has a zone of genius. I'm sure you've heard that before, that terminology, where I want to make sure that my clients can stick in their zone. And usually they're the ones who are the big idea people. They're the ones who really take care of their clients. They want to make sure they're closest to their clients. They really don't want to be taking care of the little admin day-to-day stuff. And I want to be that bridge to make sure that they don't. But I make sure that their business is still stable. So if they need to prioritize elsewhere, the business isn't breaking down while they do that. They can feel safe to be able to move on and focus on what they need to focus on. But also making sure that in order to create that type of stability, that I am able to bring together the right pieces in place for their business. So the team members, the automation, the systems, the policies, bring all of those pieces together to work harmoniously so that the business is still progressing towards what they need it to progress it to. Like, we're not losing money because they decided to prioritize something else. Things are still working just fine, but it's working in a way to where they don't always have to be in their business, so they can really just realize the fullness of their creative potential because they have that time to actually realize it and flesh out what they want something to look like.
When you say you work with all these clients, are you working solo or do you have a team that jumps in with these systems?
Good question. Right now I'm solo and I work with contractors, so I don't have any full-time employees yet. That is a plan in the next year and a half, possibly 2 years right now. But no, usually when I'm going into somebody's business, I'm working with their team, which is really great for me because I can come in and consult, and because of just all of the eclectic background that I have with my journey to getting here, I'm able to instruct and manage the team pretty well. If I need to bring in some of my own trusted contractors, I can. But usually when it comes to the consulting and strategizing, it's just me.
So you're just coaching them. Do you have any hands-on work that you do with those teams?
Oh yeah, no, I'm doing a lot of hands-on work. I'm not the one who is, for example, if I say, hey, we need to build a system to be able to handle, I'll use onboarding again, be able to onboard people who are, while you're on vacation. Let's do something like that. Let's say they have a team of a virtual assistant. I will come in and be able to go, okay, these are the steps. I will build out that system and design it for them. I will work with the VA to be able to implement it. So I won't be the one who's actually manually putting all the tags inside of whatever CRM that they're utilizing. That'll probably be the VA, but I'm the one that's double checking the work. I'm the one that's testing it. I'm the one that makes sure that it is actually giving the experience that they want it to give. And then I'm the one who's reporting on its performance to the client.
Obviously, you're very invested in these. Do you think that you kind of craft these systems to each client? Does it start to get generalized, or does it stay very personal to each business client that you work with?
Something that I pride myself on is that every single system is personalized to my client. I want to make sure that if there's a system that I am building for somebody, it's with them in mind. Fortunately, in my industry, if you will, there's a lot of generalization, and that does not work for every single client. And a lot of clients get burned because of that. So something that I really make sure that I do is that I'm really understanding what the client needs, down to what software we're using, to the specific messaging that we're using with the email automation, to the team members, to the roles, that it's perfectly suited and customized to what that client needs.
It seems super personalized, and I think that that's an amazing quality. I think that you bring in a lot of this analytical side that is obviously very beneficial. Do you think that because you get to personalize it, you get to play into the creative side a little bit more as well, so you get to kind of have that blend?
100%. I'm such a creative person, which is really interesting because I never would have seen myself while I was in Western moving into this. But I get to play. I get to play so much when I'm working with clients where they're just like, hey, I have this idea, and I totally vibe with them on it. I'm like, yes, that's an amazing idea. But also the other side of my brain's like, okay, what team members do we need? How long is that going to take us? What's the budget going to be for that? Do we need to bring anything else in? We're going to need additional assets. It's just how my brain works. But I love that because that's where I get excited. I love challenges. And when I hear like a big, complex, kind of vague idea, but just the energies behind it, then yes, I totally love being able to go, okay, so how are we going to make this puzzle fit? Like, how are we going to get this going?
It's kind of reassuring because we're kind of going through that now, like as working as a team. This isn't like a regular class that we're doing, and everybody has their role, and like every little piece is so important. Like you said, you can jump into a system that's like established. They have an idea. They just need that one piece. Mm-hmm. And that's, every time you mention it, I think of like this podcast and like what we're doing. Every little person, it's like, oh man, that person's perfect for what they're doing. Mm-hmm. This person's perfect for what they're doing. So it's cool to see that this is translating to real work life.
Yes. Everybody has their role, but everybody is needed in that role. And when I'm sure you notice, if somebody is not doing that role or they're not there, you feel it. You're like, whoa, something is off. There's just a whole synergy when it comes to having everybody in that place. And so it's really great when you're able to have everything working together to be able to bring something really amazing to the world. So yeah, 100% translates.
It's like a puzzle. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
exactly. It's a puzzle.
When these clients come to you, they're mostly burnt out, tired, don't know what to do to take that next step. How does that make you feel? Does that make you feel like super eager to help them? Is it daunting? Is it intimidating to kind of work with these kind of people?
Not at all. I think before, like when I was first starting out, 100%, because these were people who were making way more money than me. And I'm like, oh Lord, you sure you want to trust me with this? But now not so much, because I realized, especially going through it myself, because I went through such a major burnout in 2019. For a slight caveat, I remember I was traveling in Thailand with my now husband, and I was still working. This was supposed to be our first vacation together, where we were just, like finally we've worked hard, we've earned the vacation, let's just relax. I was still working in our hotel room. I very vaguely remember that trip because I didn't do a lot. Well, I did a lot, but I mainly remember being in a hotel, just working, taking calls. And I remember just going, what am I doing? Like, what am I doing? Like, this isn't what I wanted at all. And I was just at that point of just going, I just want to quit. And it was at that moment that I really had a major pivot. So I can really empathize with my clients when they come to me, because I've been there, where it's just like, we just don't know what to do. We don't know what to do. And it makes me really eager to help, because I know that it's such, and I say this lightly, I know it's an easy fix. I know it's not a burn to the ground, we got to start over type of thing. It's I guarantee you that you probably have 50% more than you think you do. We just got to get it out of your head, because right now that's where it's living. And that's why it feels overwhelming. And being able to just, even like in the first call, just to get that out, they're like, oh, I'm like, yeah. Like, you feel now like this is actually possible. And so, I'm really eager to help, because I know just from that first call, we can get so much done.
Yeah, these clients, I think, can see that like right off your website. I mean, we did some searching. We
did
saw
some
your
research.
Website,
Okay.
Yeah, oh, heck yeah. And I think it's all there. Like, everything you're saying is pretty well projected for people to see it instantly. And your website mentions multiple times that you want to help out with burnt out, busy, overworked entrepreneurs manage their business and become successful. Was that something, I think you just mentioned it, but can you expand on that personal experience that you went through? Is there a time in your life where you had to overcome something to bring you to where you are today?
Yeah. And that was really just the major one that caused a pivot in my business. I think I've had that several times. But I'll preface this by saying I am a recovering workaholic, and I know that about myself. I'm the person who, when I had a full-time job, I also had 3 side jobs, because I didn't like just sitting at home. So, hence when I moved to Australia, where everything is much slower, I couldn't handle it. I was like, why is everyone just not doing things? And now I'm pretty chill. I think the biggest one is probably just that trip, where it was just the one that sticks out in my mind, because it was 2019. I was doing, on paper, so well in my business. I was like on track to make my first $100,000 in my first quarter. I was like, dude, this online business stuff is easy. I was, on top of the world. And then I would just have these really low lows, and I couldn't understand why. It felt like I couldn't stop. If I wanted to have a rest, it felt like my business was crumbling. And I was like, I worked so hard to build this. I can't stop now and have all that work be for nothing. Especially since I had just moved to Australia and I had left my job. So it's not like I had any other income coming in. So I'm like, this is my lifeline. And then just that trip of just like, I don't want to do this. I remember telling my fiance, I was just like, or husband now, where I was just like, I want to quit. And he was very supportive. He was like, if you want to quit and just stay at home, that's fine. But I'm also not a quitter. And I was like, no. It was a complete mindset shift for me of, do I really want to build a business where I'm financially well, but emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, I'm so drained? And the answer was no. And that was really my shift of, so how can I build a business that's not just good financially, but also is good for me from a lifestyle perspective? And that's the same thread, the same narrative, same core pillar, if whatever you want to call it, that I take for all of my clients, of just like, yes, I'm sure you're very like financially successful. And that's great, but are you living the life that you wanted when you built this business, the one that you wanted to have, and the reason why you built this business? And most of the time the answer is no. And so that line of thinking for me in 2019 is what led to the massive changes that I've made now with my business, and really the reason why I work with the people that I do, because I know where they're at and I know why or I can at least empathize on why they got there, and understanding that they don't want to lose everything that they worked so hard for, and making it a little bit easier for them to be able to navigate business.
As somebody fresh in their career, like where you were, they're bombarded with hustle, work 12 hours a day, like you can't stop working. What would you say to somebody to kind of switch that mindset to working less? Or do you have to go through that to understand to work less?
Good question. I'm strongly trying to make it to where you don't have to go through that. A lot of my messaging and my content, since I've gotten really big into making content now, is around like, you do not have to go through the most in order to realize that you don't have to go through the most. You know, I'm trying to really educate now on, you can have a business that's built like this from day one. It's just building those boundaries into your business and making sure that they are actually being enforced. So, but when it comes to the person who's coming from that mentality and trying to get them to come over to the better side, gosh, I'm trying to think of like a really snazzy, like, oh, this is such a good thought piece. But honestly, I think it's similar to what I just said, of just like, is it worth it? You know, like, if coming from somebody who did hustle incredibly hard, yes, hustle works to a certain extent, but yeah, this is actually good. Work ethic is really important, but your willpower to like just push through, the energy that you have to be able to just do all the things, that has a limit. It has a limit. And eventually you're going to fall naturally into those moments where you need to rest, and you don't want your business that's built on hustle to have to rest with you. And if that's currently how your business is, then it is not built for sustainability, which is what you want. So usually I lead there, just because usually people in the hustle mentality are like, well, this is going to get me to my goal faster. I'm like, no, it's going to get you to burn out faster, and you're not even halfway through the marathon. So let's figure out a way to get you there, to get you there. We want you to get to the end of the marathon, if there's ever an end to this thing, as opposed to just how fast you can get there, because I guarantee you won't finish.
That's kind of opposite what you hear, like around social media, around the world. It's
I know.
Work.
I am going up a river with no paddle, usually with this content, and they're like, "What?" I'm like, "Go with me on it." But
I got a speedboat.
Yeah.
That's what you said.
I think, I agree. If your business can't run without you, then what did you start it for?
Exactly.
It needs to be self-efficient and, what you said, sustainable. So I think that probably a lot of those, those strategizing, those systems that you create that help people accomplish that is just really incredible to hear about. And I know you said you were thinking about bringing on more team members. You just finished working with a YouTuber. I'm excited to know, what are you working on next?
Yeah. Oh man. So I'm still working with that YouTuber. Thankfully, she signed on for a few more months, so that's good. Let's see. What am I working on next? Really, I'm working on a YouTube channel, which is a little bit different for me. I do short videos on Instagram just because it's fun. It's what the kids do. But I know I really like being on. I really like being able to share my thoughts on video. And like, that used to be my medium. Like when I was doing Miss Washington stuff, when I was in theater, like video was the thing. And so I like being able to go back to my roots, and be able to start that and be able to share this message even more and be able to have it amplified more, just with YouTube's SEO. Like, it's more SEO geared as opposed to a who's viewing your stuff more type thing. And so I appreciate the SEO aspect, since that's usually how I get a lot of my clients. So I'm like, cool, this is just another avenue. I am also, a lot of my cool stuff is like with clients, and I can't share their stuff. So like, I have really cool stuff, really cool client projects. Like I said, I work with really amazing creative people, and I'm just really excited to be a part of what they have in store, like really, really cool stuff, like with press and with like huge events online, like with people with Spotify partners. And I'm like, this is so cool. So I get to just help be a part of that. I'm being flown out to a couple of different events, which is great, because flying from Australia to America is so expensive. So it's really nice when I get flown out. And yeah, I'm working on some blogs, some guest blogs for a couple of bigger outlets than usual for that I've been asked to do. So that's pretty cool, being able to spread a little bit more just about my story as opposed to like the systems aspect, but like why I got into systems, moving to Australia and starting a business. So that's really cool being able to share that as well. So those are probably my biggest things. Yeah. Also taking care of a cat that I got during COVID. So that's probably like the next biggest thing that's on my plate.
It's a cute cat. It's a really cute cat.
For these clients that you have, are they booked out? Like, do you have months, even years in advance already booked out? Or is it an ongoing process?
Yeah, it's an ongoing process for me. And it's interesting, and I'm actually still figuring this out, my cadence for promotion, where I'm very fortunate to when I get a client, they usually stick with me for 2 years average. So for 2 years, I have a pretty solid income coming from people. And so technically in that time, I can go, I really don't need to promote. Like I'm pretty good, but I really can't be lax about it because I never want to put myself, because I've been in this position, I never want to put myself in a position where my income is reliant on one person, because I can't control that person. So I'm finding my cadence of when I open the doors for promotion of like, okay, so my capacity for this month or for the next few months, I've got space. I've got space for people. So then I'll up the cadence of promotion so that I can fill those spots in. And then there's others like December. I'm getting married again in December. We're having our second one because of COVID.
Cool.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Slip that on there. That's something exciting I'm doing. I'm getting married. Forgot that. But in December, I want to take that whole month off because getting married, honeymoon, seeing my family after forever. So my cadence is low. I'm not really promoting my operations management, my consultancy, but I do have passive offers where they can still get support. So I'm pushing those more. And I'm using those to kind of coast because I know I'm going to be fine if I take a month off. I just want to make sure that things don't slow down just because I'm not actively doing things. So it's still a process. I couldn't tell you right now, oh yeah, I promote like 4 times a year because I personally haven't figured that out yet. But I do know with the clients that I have, I'm good. And I'm just making sure that I fill out things so that I'm not fully reliant just in case something happens and they have to stop working with me.
That's very cool. It seems like you have your hands kind of in a lot of different industries with what you do, which must be just really enriching to kind of experience all these different things.
Yeah.
I'm interested to know if there's anything like that piqued your interest during your time at Western where you felt this compelling nature to experience all these things, like maybe that drove you.
Yes. Like I mentioned before, I have a pretty eclectic background to how I got here. So, and I think it's because at Western, I was doing so many different things. So I was trying a whole bunch of different things at Western. So I was in the marketing program, but I was also in the theater program. I think probably more people thought I was in theater than marketing. I'm like, no, I'm definitely majoring in marketing. I'm just taking a lot of theater classes. But I think that exposure to just 2 completely different disciplines made me want to try a whole bunch of different things. Like I did sports. I did rugby for like 2 games and then immediately realized I didn't want to do rugby. I did basketball. I did volleyball. I was in Glee Club. I just tried so many different things just because I had a varied interest and I've always been like that. And then that translated into my career path where I was trying a whole bunch of different things. I was a personal trainer. I was a bodybuilder. I was, in pageantry. I was a marketing analyst. I tried all these different things. And that all led up to me having a lot of knowledge in a variety of different industries. So I work with a variety of people because I have some knowledge in it because I worked in it or I did something in it. So it worked out. But yes, it definitely started in Western.
It's really cool to know that like you can have all these separate interests. You can have multiple different passions, but you can always tie them back to what you do and be passionate about what you do and kind of blend them together. I think marketing can be a really huge opportunity for people who have their hands in different fields, just like you did at Western, just like you do now. It's insightful and it's nice to know. I think a lot of our listeners would resonate with something like that.
And if I may add, I think one of the best things about marketing and its ever evolving field is that no matter what you are passionate about, somebody's going to need marketing in it. And it's not going to be, it doesn't have to be promotional marketing. It can be the back end of marketing operations, it could be marketing communications. There's so many facets of marketing. That's great. Or if you decide to start your own business like me, then you'll really have to get into marketing. But whatever you're interested in, or variety of things that you're interested in, marketing will always be needed. So you can almost always tie any of your experiences back into how you market and have a marketable skill, which is awesome.
I think we've heard a lot of that.
Yeah.
With our time at Western.
Yeah, it's nice. I mean, Western turns out full students. So whatever you want, you can do, which is, it's great to see that in action.
To circle back, I kind of have a question about your education, theater and marketing. Was there any integration between those two?
How do you mean?
Like, because you kind of have to put on, you kind of have to have a character, right, to kind of sell yourself. Was there any benefits to have the two studies?
100%. Oh yeah. I would say that theater, which ironically, because you are playing a character, but it helped me express myself so well. I was able to really fully using not just talking all stiff, but using the full musicality of my body to be able to express things and be able to really when I'm passionate about things, or when I want to sell things, or even just trying to get something across, not necessarily selling a product, but just selling an idea. Theater really helped me to be bold, really, really bold in being able to showcase that. And how to be able to use my voice, not to get super, super deep into it, but I remember particularly from one professor, Professor Rich Brown, where he would talk about how women would always, just to seem more feminine, they would talk in a higher voice and they would talk up here. And I never noticed it till he said it. I always did that. And I was like, and naturally I have a lower voice, if you can hear. And I was like, why am I talking in a higher? Why am I talking up here? And being able to now, when I go into conversations, clients, potential clients, whomever, I'm always talking in a lower register because that's where my voice is comfortable, and being just fully who I am and not trying to put on a front for anybody. But yeah, so all of it was just so helpful in my journey, especially when it came to marketing myself.
Yeah, being yourself is a huge facet of marketing, I think. So not only is it putting on a facade, but you have to embrace yourself. And I think it's just amazing that you've taken some of the things that you've learned and pushed it on throughout your career.
It seems like you've been through a ton.
Yeah.
And you kind of have a grasp on what you're doing now, where you can take a month off, coast, you kind of have it under control. Do you see any difference in the future for this industry that you're in?
Ooh, I think my industry is kind of weird. I'll start there, where we're a whole bunch of service providers where our goal is to help other businesses do really well. I think I'll speak to the online business industry because I think I see a lot of change there. We're seeing a lot of people moving into what I talked about before of, we don't want to build businesses that are just financially well off. We want to build businesses that also are going to put us in a space where we can navigate life really well. I want to homeschool my kids when I have kids, so I want to make sure I have a business that allows me to do that. I want to be able to travel. I love traveling. And so I don't want to have a business that doesn't allow me to be able to travel without working. And I think a lot of people in our industry are starting to recognize that as well. And also recognizing that the way their business is built, or they were told to build it, is not built for that. I think we're going to be seeing a lot more people who are pivoting more to more sustainable practices from the get-go. So they're not having to go through the trials and turmoil of building something, then having to rethink the way that they do things. They're actually from the get-go thinking, okay, how can I make this something that's going to last? Even if they don't have it all figured out, but at least they're starting to think about it. And I think also we're going to start seeing a more diversity in terms of how people find their clients, I think, because I see a lot of people when it comes to getting clients and that whole lead generation area of their business, that's usually what takes a majority of their time. And we're starting to see, even when it's just automation and chatbots, but even just more with startups and people who are beyond that and trying to find something that's a little bit more personalized as opposed to just having a robot talk for you. We're trying to find more ways to be able to generate leads on a more consistent basis. That's not going to require them showing up every day on Instagram or TikTok or whatever to be able to find those new audiences. So I see us starting to slowly move into how can we start making these practices more sustainable but need to get done in our business.
I think we see that a lot, at least looking at like internships and job descriptions. They're kind of shifting more to benefits. I don't know. Would you say that? I see a lot of, companies focusing more on workspace, like a healthy environment, like a healthy, time off, take care of yourself. And it like a 180, so like in the past year, it's kind of seemed like a lot of companies are shifting to that.
Yeah, no. And I think also a lot of this has been fast tracked because of the pandemic, where so many of us suffered a lot of mental illness issues. And we're now seeing companies starting to be like, how can we make it so that our work is not an accelerator to the deterioration of your mental health? And so as awful as this pandemic has been, there have been some benefits like workplace environments that has thankfully been able to come out of this. So I'm glad that even not just in my space, my little corner of the industry, but also just across the industries that we're seeing people start to take mental health more seriously. And in doing so, making sure that the environments that we work in, that we do business in, are going to be safe to be able to navigate that is really good.
Awesome. Yeah, that's definitely more intriguing to be excited about the career, past college.
Your work being a driver of mental health deterioration is, it's that burnout. A lot of people experienced that burnout in the pandemic. I know students did, employees did, CEOs, self-driven entrepreneurs, everybody experienced that burnout because it was such an unprecedented time. And I think that a lot of what's come out of it for a lot of business worlds and companies has been very beneficial in terms of prioritizing employee empowerment. So we would like to finish off we do this with every Marketing by the Minute guest. On Marketing by the Minute, we like to hear our guests' personal definition of marketing. So Elisabeth, in a minute or less, could you describe what marketing means to you?
Sure. Marketing to me is being able to communicate your values and your overall branding and core messaging, and being able to amplify it so that is able to go beyond your own mouthpiece. So being able to go into rooms that you don't even know exist, but your marketing is, and people are able to understand your message, understand who you are, understand if you have a business, like what the core results are that you're looking for, that you provide. In that, marketing is able to go into spaces well beyond you because people understand what you're trying to communicate and what your message is.
Absolutely, yeah. It goes beyond the person, beyond the business. That's a great definition. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's awesome to hear different people's thoughts on it. And it's been different every time.
That's cool.
It's super cool.
And you had some really amazing insights, and we are just so thankful that you were here. Thank you, Elisabeth, and we would like to thank our listeners for tuning in. Is there anything else that us or your listeners could follow you on?
On Instagram, they can follow me at Elisabeth Jackson, just my name. On Twitter, they can follow me at by the Afro Coach. And then also, if they just want to know more about me, my cause, or if for whatever reason they're starting a business and they want support, they can go to my website at theafrocoach.com. I have a quiz on there that actually charts, based off of where they're at in business, exactly the type of operations that they should be focusing on, just because a lot of times people can go, oh, we need a team and we need this and we need that. I'm like, nah, you're not there yet. Let's start with one thing, and that's what the quiz is for. So that's usually where I'm at.
Perfect.
Make sure to follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. We will have those linked below and on the screen. We would love to thank our production team. We've got our producers, Nicole Shive and Jerry Manzano. Our editing team is Jace Gersten and Bianca Slaman. Our executive producer is Riley Hewitson. We're your hosts. I'm Claudia Webster.
And I'm Clay Ashworth.
Our instructor is Dan Purdy. We are coming to you from the WW Marketing Media Lab.
It's time to make your mark. Talk to you next time on Marketing by the Minute.